Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by oldschoollane.blogspot.com and is associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, the Comic Book Cast, and the Arun Mehta Show.
Close my eyes and dream of you and me. And tomorrow's when I'd dream again, and in my dreams I'd see we fly away to a wondrous brand new day, and we'd sail up there so high we could touch the sky.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia, and I am here with two very special guests. They are from ToonGrin. We have Nero and Whyboy, so welcome back, guys.
Great to be here.
Yeah! So today, we're going to be doing a very special trilogy, which we haven't done in a while. So we're going to be discussing about the E.B. White adaptation trilogy. Now, just recently, E.B. White celebrated his 120th birthday, so I thought, let's look back on the three books that were adapted into films. They are Charlotte's Web, Stuart Little, and The Trumpet of the Swan.
Is he dead?
I believe so. Maybe it's just his 120th birthday.
I was going to say, he didn't live to be 120, did he?
Well, no, he didn't. He died around the 90s, but I'm just saying, this is a celebration.
I would have loved to have been that 2 cents. It's like, how do you feel about that live-action adaptation of Charlotte's Web there, E.B.? It's like, I hate life.
How did you feel about the Templeton scene where he got farted on by a cow?
Yes.
Yes.
I made it that far into that movie, and I was just like, No! I just stopped, drank.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So, I'm actually curious. So, what was your first introduction to any of the E.B. White adaptations, or even the books?
Oh, well, Charlotte's Web. Especially the animated film from, the 70s, associated with Hanna-Barbera alone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, and just for me, I just watched just the movies myself. I never got around to actually seeing the books or anything like that. They weren't even really offered in my schools and all that. We got William Shakespeare and all that sort of stuff.
All that sort of crap, that garbage they give to kids. What did Bill Shakespeare ever do for me?
Hey, I'll be honest, those books were boring for me. That stuff's old writing. I need new writing. It's interesting.
I need something fresh, not thou art Heatherforth. What is this garbage? What is he from the 18th century or something?
Yeah. How I first got introduced to it, it's actually interesting because I actually got introduced to Charlotte's Web, both the book and the movie around the same time. So they were letting us read Charlotte's Web in school, and then around that time, I've mentioned this many times before in the podcast, such as the Amblimation podcast and the Sullivan Blues Studio podcast, about how when I was a kid, my dad would give me bootleg tapes. And Charlotte's Web was one of them, and in it was alongside Once Upon a Forest. Yeah.
Yes.
That existed.
Yeah. That's also a part of another, trilogy of Hanna-Barbera films that were not based off of their, original characters. There was Charlotte's Web, Once Upon a Forest, and Heidi.
Taylor and I watched Heidi.
Really?
Wait. No, we watched Pippi Longstockings.
Yeah, that's
a different thing. Completely irrelevant. My apology. All these action-oriented girls. As we all know, as Brie Larson taught us, we've never had action-oriented girls until she was graced on our beautiful planet to be Captain Marvel.
Okay, sure. But yeah, so maybe I'll talk about that trilogy another time. But for the meanwhile, I remember that, I was like one of those kids who like compared the books to the movie. And this was like around like, I want to say like the early 90s, because I remember that this was when Charlotte's Web was actually released on video. And apparently, from what I've done research on, it was actually a bit of a hit. It was like one of the big hits in VHS, tapes. One of those cases in which like the movie was like moderately decent when it first came out, but then when it came out in VHS, that was when it started getting a lot more popular. So yeah, I guess we can start talking about it now. So yes, I think that out of the 3 movies that we'll be talking about, this is the one that E.B. White was alive long enough to actually see its production. And apparently, like, it was a bit of a mess. Like, he wasn't allowed to see storyboards, and he gave some feedback that they didn't really take into heart. When he saw the final product, he absolutely hated it. Which I can, when he wrote the book, he wanted it to be like really quiet and serene and all that stuff. And he thought that the music additions were unnecessary. He thought that there should have been Mozart instead. And, he didn't like that there were some changes into it, like additional characters and whatnot. So, yeah, very similar to how every single time a Roald Dahl adaptation, such as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and the Witches came out, basically just said like, no, I want nothing to do with this.
It's like Alan Moore.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every Alan Moore adaptation, I heard it was terrible. And then you hear like the guy who voices Solid Snake, like the original guy, wrote a treatment for Watchmen. And Alan Moore was like, oh, this is all right. And then they didn't use it.
Yeah, just for Charlotte's Web, we finished it yesterday, and Nero just looked it up and be like, oh, did you know that E.B. just hated this movie? And I was just like, what? Oh yeah, he just flat out despised it.
The conversation ended with, so what did you think, Taylor? You're like, I thought it was pretty good. I'm like, oh, E.B. White hated this movie. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand.
I can't blame him.
Sure. Let's actually talk about it. So for those who are wondering, what Charlotte's Web is about, for the 2 of you out there. So Charlotte's Web is about a pig named Wilbur, and, he is the runt of the litter, and a young girl named Fern rescues him and raises him as a pet. And then when he gets old enough, he is transferred over to her uncle Homer Zuckerman's farm, and he learns about that his life is being threatened, and so he befriends a spider named Charlotte, and she tries her very best so that she can be able to save his life, and she does so by weaving words into the web like terrific and some pig and radiant and humble. And as time goes on, everybody starts knowing about, Zuckerman's famous pig, and he starts becoming really famous and popular. And that's essentially like the story in a nutshell. Like, it's just the story about, this pig and the spider and their friendship. So, yeah, Nero, I'm actually curious about what your thoughts are in this movie.
Why me specifically? Are you assuming the worst?
No, I mean, the way that you brought it up, I'm actually intrigued to have your thoughts first.
Here's the thing. I do think it's wonderful. I want to put that out there. It is a delightful film.
But he hates it.
That said, shut up. That said, this is one of the reasons why I hate Disney as a corporation, which is funny because Disney technically isn't related to this, but indirectly is. Disney kind of made it apparent that like kids' films need to be like loud and have musicals, and they basically normalized it to a degree where every other studio, when they make an animated film, it's like, oh, there needs to be singing, right? Well, no, there doesn't need to. Disney does that. Well, yeah, but that's just their thing. We could do our own thing. Yeah, so we're going to do that too. Because I do think the musicals are well done in this in terms of like how they sound. It's the same guy who wrote. It was done by the same guy who did like Mary Poppins and Jungle Book.
Yeah, it was done by the Sherman Brothers. Yes,
and it's solid sounding, just like it's solid sounding in Jungle Book and it's solid sounding in Mary Poppins. There's not a damn thing memorable about them though. They just sort of exist, and it's not even that they're bad. Because, Wilbur starts singing, that song with all the different syllables when he first can talk, and it's like, oh, this is delightful and upbeat. You can remove it. It adds nothing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, you have a previous scene in which he's sad that he's taken away from his owner, and that all of a sudden, the goose comes and talks to him and says, "Hey, can you talk?" And then all of a sudden, when he does start talking, then he's like, "Oh, I'm happy, everything is fine."
I have no worries.
But then he's back to sad again after the song. I'm still sad.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tonal whiplash, I do admit.
He's like an unintentionally written character with social anxiety. like the writers are like, oh, it's gonna be funny because he goes from very somber to quirky and upbeat. You basically made a guy that's like, what do they call it? Manic depressed.
Yeah, manic depression. Yeah.
Like any moment, Wilbur could be upbeat and full of life. At other points, he's like, "We're all gonna die. We're all lambs to the slaughter." And it's like, Wilbur, what the f, man?
Well, that basically is his just whole point in the movie. It's just oh no, I'm gonna get killed. No, I don't want to.
Yeah, but I strongly doubt that either EB or the people making the film was it's gonna it's quirky and fun. It's like if you ever watch '80s Ninja Turtles, and it's Baxter Stockman's funny because he's part fly and he's forgetting his humanity and he likes eating sugar and eating out of the garbage. And then you think about it, you're like, oh my god, that's horrible. He used to be a man who had feelings and emotions, and now he's losing his humanity. That's messed up.
Yeah, if you take just the childlike wonder out of it, it definitely is a messed up scene, especially for Wilbur as well.
Yeah.
But
I do admit that there are some songs in this movie that are a mixed bag. The earlier songs I think could have been removed, but I think some certain songs, when Wilbur talks to Jeffrey about how just because you're different, it doesn't mean that you're nothing special, or any of Charlotte's songs is actually really special. It's very heartwarming and compassionate, especially when you know about the tragedy behind the voice actress of Charlotte herself. So it's actually interesting to kind of see in the perspectiveness of how the story plays into whenever song is out. I think Mike Rorocco from Animated Anarchy podcast said this best when he and his co-host Andrew Dickman were talking about Gay Paris, and about how it seemed that during the 70s, especially with the likes of various movies that were not Disney, they try to add songs into it because they think that Disney is adding songs, we should do the same. But they didn't understand that the reason why Disney did add songs into their movies was for exposition and character development.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you ever want a prime example of what I think is the ideal Disney musical, you look no further than Mulan.
Yeah, that would be my choice as well.
Her songs are all about anything from Be a Man. That's her character arc, going from someone who's kind of meek. She doesn't really fit in with traditional women's standards of China. She doesn't fit in with the men because she's a woman. But then she overcomes it. She becomes one of the guys. She's part of the army. She builds a friendship and she has a connection with them. Even when they're singing, what was it? The song about coming home from war and how they want wives.
Yeah. It's what was it? A Girl I'm Fighting For.
Yeah, that whole song is it's goofy and quirky, but it's also we're going to war. We could die today. The Huns could kill us all.
Yeah, showing the tonal whiplash, how these guys are basically oh, war's gonna be great. We're gonna come back as heroes and all that. Then the tonal whiplash would be destroyed village.
War sucks. War's a travesty. War doesn't make heroes. War just sucks. The end. And that's where I think that's a great benefit to that kind of storytelling, and that's where Disney really knew how to do it. Alternatively, you have something like Frozen, where they're fine. They're musical pieces, but narratively, they're not really carrying anything. Mm-hmm. Just Elsa sings Let It Go. Okay, so this is supposed to be her moving on and freeing herself from the oppression of the social anxiety she had. The moment she meets up with her sister, I can't do anything. Well, you had a whole song about this. Well, what was the point?
Basically, it undercuts what the actual story is actually telling for. In Charlotte's Web's case, it doesn't really undercut anything that's going on, except for that initial song, where it's just Wilbur be I'm happy. No, I'm sad.
Templeton's song just sucks.
Yeah, his is the worst one.
First off, Paul Lynde's a phenomenal performer. Man can't sing.
Yeah, Poland is known for being like very comedic, unintentionally or intentionally, whatever that he's in, whether it be like in Bewitched or his stint on doing Hollywood Square. He tends to be like really dramatic or really sarcastic and over the top. But yeah, this is one thing that I don't think he does very well is singing. He kind of like talks more of his lines than singing it.
Yeah, and it's funny because some people can do it really well. Like if you saw the 2016 Jungle Book remake. Chris Walken just, hand to God, I still believe the way he sung King Louis' song was Christopher Walken walked into the booth and he just started talking about things. Like, just spontaneously, he's like, don't try to kid me, man. He's like talking to like some gaffer or something like that in the background about getting him like some cheese from the table. And then it's just like, what's Walken going on about? Record, animate to what he's saying. I don't care. Just do it. Because there are points where King Louis talking, he's like, you ever hear with the mango? Call it the paw, because it's the sound that makes when it hits the jungle floor. You just sit there and you're like, he wasn't given a script, was he? Like Jon Favreau called in Walken, and then that's it. He Walkened. And whatever it was, they just animated to whatever was happening.
I guess Jon Favreau saw the Hook performance, and he was like, that's our King Louis.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's why you hire Walken. You hire him for that, for being just Christopher Walken. It's why you hire Tim Curry. It's why you hire Robin Williams. You hire them for being what they are. Mm-hmm. It's like Tim Curry doesn't have range. You'd swear most of, if not almost all of his characters are the same, but he's good in all of them.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, Hexus is really not that different from Forte the pipe organ.
I mean, yeah, that's true. And, Captain Maelstrom is not different than the pirate from Muppet on Treasure Island.
He was a phenomenal Long John Silver.
Yeah, he was great.
I like the thing is, with this movie, I do like it. It didn't need to be a musical. I understand why it is, and that's one of the reasons I hate Disney is because as a juggernaut in the industry, they have an impact. Whether they want to acknowledge it or not, they have an impact on the industry. Because of them, everything wants to be a flippin' musical when it's animated. That's why with when DreamWorks came around, it was like Shrek. Oh, it's not really a musical. They do have an egregious amount of pop songs, unfortunately, which is hilarious because that became their cross to bear and their curse as a studio was to always put in some pop song in all their freaking films.
Pretty much.
But it wasn't really a musical. And I think even when it comes to Charlotte's Web, it feels like they don't even fully commit to being a musical. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it feels like they enter areas where it's just song just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Very similar to...
It's one of those things where it's like, this to me is the big issue where it's like, the songs should always help convey something. Little Mermaid is... it's funny, I don't like Little Mermaid, but it really is a kind of perfect Disney movie.
I can see where you're coming from.
Where it's all the music kind of fits.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Even though I like the one song, I like Ursula's song.
Poor Unfortunate Souls, yeah. And the recent news of Melissa McCarthy being Ursula. I take it you didn't like it.
Yeah. I honestly had just heard about it just from you.
Oops.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It was just revealed last night as of the making of this podcast. Yes.
Oh.
Well, I think she's funny. At to see if she can pull off an Ursula.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, what, Melissa McCarthy? No, man. Dude, she's only hard because she's fat.
Wow.
No, her acting range is, I'm fat and I fall. Isn't that funny? And it's no. And the thing is, I know she could be a good comedian, because I've seen her on SNL and she's phenomenal. This is why this 2016 Ghostbusters pisses me off, where it's here are 4 hilarious comedians. Then you watch the movie. What happened? None of you are funny. I know one of you has to be funny because one of you was Lola Bunny.
Yeah.
And you're hilarious.
Yeah, and also Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon is if you see her on SNL, she can do no wrong.
No, and that's the madness. And then it's well, let's get Melissa McCartney. Oh, what? Why? First off, if we're going to cast for Ursula, how about a drag queen? Why not?
Very similar to Divine.
Well, Divine was the basis for Ursula.
Well, there you go.
But on top of that, it's just like, you just know Ursula's going to be like probably like a sucky CGI effect.
I have no idea, but let's get back to Charlotte's Web. It's like you were saying earlier. I think that, any song from Charlotte, I feel like that really just helps connect to the character and whatever is going on. That one scene where she's singing about, like, Deep in the Dark, where she's making some pig web for the very first time, and the song is talking about, like, she's doing this for Wilbur because she loves him. That actually does make a lot of sense in the plot. How Very Special Are We is one of my personal favorites. I think that it might be my favorite in the entire one, where she talks about life, and she talks about how special it is and about how we should appreciate everything that is there. So I think that does fit. Everything else, you're right. I don't think it, think you could just cut them off and it really wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, I mean, like, narratively, it's a solid film. It does suffer a bit of tonal whiplash. I mean, like, there's that really weird scene where it's like, Templeton doesn't want to show up for the farm meeting, and then I guess Charlotte had like a wild hair up her ass where it's like, I'm going to try to get him killed by a cat, and you're like, that's a little out of left field.
Yeah, it wasn't, to be fair, it was also in the book.
Yeah, I guess Evie must have had a wild hair up his ass then, where it's like, and then she tries to murder him. And it's like, that's really weird tonally, because there's, when we get to Stuart Little, Taylor and I had this huge discussion afterwards about, like, we're suddenly, like, it's like Pandora's box was open.
Okay, yes.
I would argue, though, this is a classic that I think any kid should see. I get what the creator's coming from, and to an extent, I do agree with them. I don't think it's as egregious as he made it sound, though, where it's like, I will never forgive how costly a disappointment this is. There are so many books that are adapted out there
that are so much worse than this one.
They're like 100 bajillion Googleplex infinity times infinity worse than this. In recent years, nonetheless.
And I do want to mention out the musicals. In terms of, like, all the musicals that I've seen, like, Charlotte's Web actually does a lot of great staging and such. Like, me and Nero compared, like, Charlotte's song to, like, something like Fantasia and such. Like, it focused on a lot of the musical elements of it, as it just blended sound and animation well together.
Like the webs and the water. Like, I'm actually really surprised whenever you look at this and it's like, who did this? Hanna-Barbera. Huh? The Cheapskate King?
I mean, we also don't forget that, Iwao Takamoto was also a part of this, and we already know about some of the brilliant work that he's done in both Hanna-Barbera and in Disney.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, we have the guy who was a part of not only, like, the creation of Scooby-Doo, well, I mean, like, conceptually, art-wise, but also he worked on Sleeping Beauty, and that's one of the most beautiful Disney films out there.
Oh yeah, like for this, like, it really, the animation itself really saved all these sort of musical numbers, because they really just conceptually most of them are really pointless, but with the staging and such, it basically makes each one of them like almost like a little celebration in the middle of it. Like, even
except for Templeton's.
Yeah, except for Templeton.
That just slows down everything to a crawl.
It's like, man, back to the total whiplash thing. Like, Charlotte is just, talking about, she laid her eggs and she's, slowing down, and then out of nowhere, hi guys, like, this fat ass frat boy comes in out of left field.
Yeah.
I ate all night. I'm basically a drunk character. What are you doing?
Again, this was also in the book. I can, but that
was
whole.
It? Like, did Evie write? And then the fat rat came stumbling in like a drunk uncle in the dead of the morning.
Yes, it is in the book. But that whole montage of Templeton eating everything after the fair, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was just typical Hanna-Barbera montage fare.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because, like, when it's good, it's good. It's really good. I mean, like, I would honestly argue Fern feels like such a real girl growing up, where it's like, you have that innocence to you, where it's like, it's a cute little pig. Well, if it ain't getting fed, I mean, it's like, it's going to suffer trying to survive in, like, the bigger family dynamic. And it's like, you're just going to kill him? He's a farmer. That's just how things are done. And then it's just like, would you kill me if I was small? Jesus Christ, you're a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a real teenage reaction. It really is.
Yeah, and I do think that, Fern's part of the story is actually really interesting about, like, the progression from being an innocent girl to essentially being almost like a teenager in a sense, when she starts having a stronger relationship with Henry Fussy, which this is one thing I do have to give the movie credit for, because Henry Fussy wasn't even mentioned in the book until the last act when they meet up at the fair.
I fell in love with this guy. Who the hell are you?
Yeah, I mean, Henry Fussy was mentioned like a few times in the beginning, and then there was the scene that they cut off from this movie, but they did add it into the 2006 live-action adaptation, was when Fern's mother actually goes over to Dr. Dorian, the child doctor, to discuss about, the fact that Vern was hearing talking animals, and then she mentions about, like, Henry Fussy was, like, her only friend that she had, and then the doctor said, that's just, kid... that, she's going through this as a child, eventually, her and Henry Fussy will start developing feelings for each other, and then she'll slowly be less interested in in going into the farm.
So in the book, they talk, so she's not like crazy.
No, of course not.
Okay, the animated film makes it seem like a weird mix of like childlike whimsy to, is she just nuts?
Yeah. They should have. I think that the movie should have added in that scene in which Fern's mother went to go see the doctor. I'm glad that they did do that in the live action movie, though. But
because in this one, she just comes to like her mom and pa, and she's like talking to them, where it's like, Charlotte said this and this and this Templeton, we don't like them, and the mom's just like, crazy ass kid, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop hanging out on the damn farm. You need to be interacting with people.
Right, exactly. But then there are some other things that I wasn't too crazy about in this movie. They did add it in the character of Jeffrey, which is the Gosling. They added it in because, we need to give Wilbur a similar thing to what he was going through in the beginning, where he was like a little runt himself. And the one thing that I didn't even notice about until recently when I saw the Media Hunters video was that apparently there was a deleted scene that was only shown in the international version of, when it was the scene in the fair, right before they were leaving, and they put Wilbur inside the crate, and Jeffrey was about to go inside. Apparently Jeffrey was attempting to try to go inside the truck to go into the crate again, and then while driving, he fell out of the truck, and he's dropped off in the middle of the lake where his mom and his brothers and sisters are. And then they were talking about, like, you have to eventually move on, you're probably never going to see Wilbur again, and then they just walk into the lake, and that's it. That's the last time we see Jeffrey.
That's like that weirdness at the end of Lord of the Rings, and then they all got in a boat. What the hell does that mean? Maybe they're dead, maybe they're alive, who knows?
Yeah, that's just kind of just a out of nowhere downer ending.
I mean, it's a very powerful message to think about, because like it's part of the thematic of actually the film, the book, where it's like growing up, things change, friends don't always stay friends forever. It's a harsh part of reality, but people move on. But it really would have been really abrupt if it's just like, fell out of the truck, guess we're not friends anymore. Shrug.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I think that, the scene where, Charlotte does die after she creates her magnum opus is definitely one of the saddest moments I remember as a kid, where, she basically just sacrificed everything to keep Wilbur alive. And then, she herself is appreciative of the fact that Wilbur was able to give her a bit of life that was not just an ordinary life, just something that would intrigue her and to keep her motivated into doing something more than just being a regular spider. And I do appreciate, the final scene in which when, Wilbur does eventually become friends with the three little spiders that were too young to fly away, and Wilbur starts treating them like if they were his own. And I thought that was very sweet. And I have to say that I'm probably like in the minority on this, but I remember that this was like one of my favorite childhood like movies I would watch like constantly all the time. So it actually means a lot to me. I understand that there are some problems with it, as when I was rewatching it again, but something about it just it really means a lot to me. It's something that is very special in my it holds a very special place in my heart. So
I feel the same way about movies that nobody talks about, where it's like Jack Frost from like the stop motion.
Yeah, you're the Rankin Bass one. Yeah, we actually talked about that a few years ago. Remember? For
no reason, it was just like, I like this movie, and people are just like, why? And it's like, I don't know, like Jack is just so whimsical. He's a happy little sprite who like falls in love. That's charming.
Yeah,
it's sort of that wholesomeness effect.
Yeah,
like from Paddington, that sort of thing, and even Charlotte's Web.
Mm-hmm.
It's because like Wilbur is just such a like a wholesome character that you just enjoy seeing his adventure throughout all this.
Well, it's like when you hit the 20-minute mark. I don't want to die. Jesus.
I don't want to die either. Oh no.
Oh man, we're hitting kids hard and fast with this. Man, remember when movies used to have teeth?
Yep, those were the good old days. Yeah, so I want to briefly talk about the live action movie, which they did add in, some scenes in the book that were not in the original animated film, but then they added in some things into it that were not in the book, and it kind of like offsets things, like you were just mentioning earlier about that scene that happened at Templeton.
Oh, that wasn't in the book? E.B. White didn't describe in gratuitous detail how cow farted on a rat and blew it off like a fence? I find it hard to believe that didn't make the cut.
Just E.B. just spitting in his grave.
He's spinning so hard that we could put him in a generator and he creates a centrifugal force to power half the globe with his spite.
Exactly.
Because if you hated the animated one, oh boy.
Yeah, for sure. And also another thing that I did notice, when people were talking about like, which is better, the live action version or the animated version, I've seemed to see people like split down the middle with it. They either prefer one or the other, and they have their own distinct reasons on why, which I can definitely see where they're coming from. I may have like some connections with the animated one, but I do see why a lot of people do like the live action one. But the things that they added into it was just something that I really couldn't get into. Like, I don't know how some people feel about this, but I really wasn't too crazy about Wilbur's voice in the live action movie. He just sounded like way too young. But then again, in the original, he kind of sounded a little bit too old for him to be a runt. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I wasn't.
But in the 70s one, he looked almost. I mean, he visually, because it was drawn, he looked like a full-grown pig.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be a runt. Like, he was supposed to be at least less than a year old.
He looked huge. Even like by the time they got him to Uncle Homer's farm, damn, that's a big pig. And it's like, that's the runt of the litter. That's the runt? Jesus Christ! The pigs on the actual farm must be huge. Like, they must look like Ganondorf from like Legend of Zelda when he's like in the giant boar form.
Yeah, exactly. So, I actually there was a lot of things that I actually do like in the live action movie. I do like Dakota Fanning as Fern. She was like really nice. Julia Roberts as Charlotte was very sweet. Steve Buscemi.
Julia Roberts.
Huh?
It's Julia Roberts. I mean.
Yeah, of course it's Julia Roberts, America's sweetheart. I get that, but I'm just pointing it out. Comparing Julia Roberts and Debbie Reynolds about who's the best Charlotte, that's really tough. I mean, they both play it amazingly, and Steve Buscemi like as Templeton, that's also a really tough one to decide on which one, because they both play as like really jerky and sarcastic.
It'd be funny given who Steve Buscemi and like how he looks. It'd be funny if they just put him in like a rat costume and just green screened him on set. It's like they didn't even like CGI rat. They just put like Steve Buscemi in front of a green screen and then like cropped it out and it was like, and there's Templeton. Looks like Steve Buscemi in a really bad rat costume. Like imagine like Mike Myers in that terrible Cat in the Hat costume.
Oh God,
but
no.
just Steve Buscemi in a rat suit.
Oh God, I get nightmares for weeks just thinking about that.
I mean, the thing with Charlotte's Web, the 06 one, it kind of falls into the thing where they get so many celebs.
Yeah.
Like they have, I think it's either this year or next year, they're doing a remake of Dr. Dolittle.
Really?
Yeah, no, dude, it's going to star, Iron Man is going to be the Doctor.
No kidding. Really?
Robert Downey's going to be the Doctor, and out of all the animals, the only name I remember from that list is John Cena is going to be one of the talking animals.
Oh my God, I kind of want to see it now.
I'm the fan of the original Dr. Dolittle. I mean, like...
Wait, which Dr. Dolittle are you referring to?
The original from, like, I think the 60s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, I love that movie. Like, it's so solid. And then every time they do a remake, what if the animals could talk back? What?
Yeah, that is weird. They're definitely more akin to doing the Eddie Murphy version as opposed to the Rex Harrison version.
That's when I knew I would grow up to being a bitter and resentful critic of the remakes. That was the moment where it's like, It's all a lie. We live, we die. Life is meaningless.
And Nero's heart shriveled up 3 sizes that day.
And well, in Arizona, they say, Nero's heart shrunk 3 sizes that day. Right up there with the 2006 Charlotte's Web. Which, it was like, let's just get all these famous actors in here. And it's like, I hate when studios do this. Because, like, it's being sold on the idea of, like, you're not going to remember the characters. You're going to remember actors' voices coming out of animals' faces.
Mm-hmm.
And that's irksome to me. Like, The Land Before Time, you remember Littlefoot and Spike and Petrie and Ducky and Sarah. You don't think about the, like, celebs behind them. Nowadays, it's always like, you need a celebrity face to go with it and overcome the role. And it's like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah, like, I guess that maybe at the time when Charlotte's Web came out, like in the 70s version, there were also a lot of celebrities that were very popular at the time, as well as some Hanna-Barbera alums. But, I mean, I never hear anybody talking about, like, the celebrity power in this one. Like, Debbie Reynolds is Charlotte. I mean, they remember her as Charlotte. And, with Paul Lynde as Templeton. They're not going to say with Henry Gibson as Wilbur, it's like, it's that guy who played as Murph Stimpleton from Rocket Power. Yeah, I guess I can see where you're coming from. It's in recent years, especially with DreamWorks movies, because Aaron Mehta and I are doing Dream Machine, where we're looking at every single DreamWorks film. We've noticed that...
man, I'd love to get on that action.
We're already reached up to the point of Captain Underpants, so you're a little too late.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I think that we've noticed that, the whole idea about, like, let's include celebrities into movies because the kids wouldn't know who they are, but the parents would.
Yeah.
I hate that mentality, too, because it's like, I don't think any parent who goes to see a movie with their kid wants to be like, I wonder what celebs I could point at that my child has no concept of understanding who they are.
Further than that, because it's not really for those parents. It's for basically the investors and such, where you basically go to them and be like, our movie has this, and this famous actor on it. Please give us money for that, please. Because I worked behind the scenes on some films, and you basically do have to think like that. It's like, okay, what's the star power that's going to get us
how much does that concept actually work? Because, like, Roseanne Barr was a big name, and she was, like, the selling point to Home on the Range, and that nightmare of a film frickin' crashed and burned.
Yeah, I really have no idea. Apparently it's just sort of like, you just got to keep on doing it, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Russian roulette.
Basically.
We've reached the point, folks. We're talking about a wholesome, humble movie. And now we got to the point of Russian roulette.
To be fair, Charlotte's Web is arguably one of the best films to handle death. Like, if you really kind of look at the breakdown of it, that and maybe Land Before Time, the first Land Before Time, handles, like, death and grief really well. And then you get to, like, Disney films, and it's like, man, modern Disney is just hilariously bad at it. It really has gone fully into a joke by this point. I mean, Frozen's a prime example of that. Here are your abusive parents. They died on a boat ride. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Here comes the good dinosaur. Your father is about to drown now.
A Good Dinosaur is an awesome flick where it's just like, though, that comes out of nowhere. It's like, Dad, whoosh. So he's gonna, like, meet up with them at, like, the end, right? Like, that's his character arc, is he journeys by himself for a little while. Eventually he reunites with his father. No, his dad's just dead. Like, the flood just came and washed him away, and he died. It's like, oh. Well, like, Lion King handled death pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Tarzan. Oh, my, Tarzan's was just, that was just grisly.
Mm-hmm.
That was just positively red. Like, it was so sad how that poor child lost his parents.
Yeah.
But then you get, like, Disney's Hercules. This is the most safe, inoffensive. Like, it's weird because it's Greek mythology, and the whole time you can just tell, like, Disney. So this is like Greek mythology. Zeus loves his son. Okay, what about Hera? I know my mythology. Hera loves her son too.
Okay. Even though
everybody's friendly. We all get along. What about Hades? I mean, he was like kind of a benevolent deity. Well, he's like a used car salesman. Okay? I'm on board. This is the most washed out and safe Disney movie ever made. Just because it's like, there's Aphrodite. I know what she's famous for, being a compassionate individual.
Yes, nothing.
No. Oh, yeah, right. That's right, Taylor. Nothing. There's Ares, god of her. I'm sorry? Is that how you pronounce war? No.
He's the god of battling stuff.
He's the god of physical collaboration.
No, he's the god of arguments. He's just the god of arguments.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, dude. Poseidon's there. Like, he's right there in the opening shot. It's like, I know the Odyssey. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? And like, there's Herc's awesome water uncle. Okay?
Nothing.
Freaking. Yeah, right? Like, there's Bacchus. Yeah. God of, like, wine, women, son. God of parties and engagements. He's clearly drunk right now. And, like, Charlotte's Web, 20 minutes in, death. It happens. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a Band-Aid. You just rip it right off.
And Charlotte's all about accepting death in the end.
Yeah.
Well, like it happens. Like, that's the sad reality of it, where it's like, does death suck? Oh, yeah. But, like, you enjoy the times you had then and there. And he had a good life, like, all things considered. Considering, like, I bet you that pig in the stall next to him, I bet you that thing was turned into a delicious roast.
Probably was.
A lot of bacon.
Yeah, even though that uncle won the prize for, like, the fair, yeah, he's probably going to be turned into bacon, like, no sooner than, like, a couple of months after they get sick and tired of him.
Well, how much are you going to really sell on the idea of, man, look how big this pig is. Man, the luau that's going to be associated with this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Unrelated to the narrative, something that just killed me, by the way, when Taylor and I were watching this, well, they were like, Zuckerman, you win. Here's $25. I'm like, man, do you remember when that used to go for a lot of money?
Yeah, well, I actually looked this up because this is something that the Media Hunter actually complained about. Because considering that the book was written in 1952, we can assume that that's when the movie takes place. So we're essentially looking at $25 from 1952 for today would be the equivalent of about $240. And that's not bad considering that Wilbur didn't even win first place. He just got money for just being a great pig.
Yeah, that's a solid amount.
I have to ask, with the book, were the people, like, were they as easily, like, swayed with the idea of, it's America? Like, were they like bumpkins that were very, very easily swayed by, like, holy Christ, there's a spider writing words?
I mean, here's the thing. So, at first, I think it was Mrs. Zuckerman who actually pointed out about the suspicion about the spider being close to the pig stall, saying, like, maybe it was the spider who wrote the words. And then Homer Zuckerman was like, nah, it's not. It's actually Wilbur. Wilbur is very special. And then they just go with it.
But it's in a spider's web. Where did it come from, then, if the spider didn't do it? But you think God sent down an angel? Hey, so, virgin birth, make that web have words in it. God, I don't think you're using me to my full potential. I'll tell you about your full potential. Put the words in the damn spider's web, man. That's some pig.
Well, there you go.
God was just really invested in this one lone farm.
Yes, this one lone farm in Maine, which I actually, apparently, I listened to an NPR interview with, I believe it was E.B. White's daughter, and apparently, like, it was an actual farm that, you know, E.B. White got the inspiration from. He just won't say where the place is because he didn't want it to turn into a tourist attraction. He was such a quiet and very, he was more like a loner. He was more like a person who kept to himself, which is why it was even a surprise that he even wrote books for children. So, I think that, for something like, Charlotte's Web being a lot more subdued and very humble, and at the same time being very realistic depiction of death and growing up and moving on towards bigger and better stuff, I think that that's actually really good for, learning for kids. And I can understand why, and, for books, it has actually become, like, a major staple in, like, children's literature. Like, I can assure for maybe, like, I don't know for, like, today's kids, but I believe that at a time, like, Charlotte's Web was, like, one of the de facto books to read in order for you to, like, get into, like, literature. Now, as for like the movie adaptations, yes, I there are some problems for both of the adaptations, but then there was a lot of good things about it. It just depends on what your personal preference is, and each of the movies does a really good job in maintaining what the message is.
Yeah.
So, right before we move over to Stuart Little, I have to talk about Charlotte's Web too. I actually did tweet about this when I first saw the movie, and it just...
Did E.B. White write the epic tale about how Wilbur made friends with Charlotte's daughters, and they went on crackerjack adventures, 30 years after the fact?
Not even close.
No? I find that... Tristan, I find that very hard to believe. I find that hard to believe, too. Come on, It's Wilbur's great adventure. Mind you, he's somehow a lot smaller, a lot hairier, and doesn't look remotely like Wilbur.
Not even close. He doesn't even sound like Wilbur. He doesn't even act like Wilbur.
Well, I mean, how many of the actors are even alive? That's 30 damn years after the original.
I mean, Paul Lynde was dead, and so was the narrator, Rex Allen, but I think that, I believe that, Debbie Reynolds was alive at the time, and so was, Henry Gibson. He was alive too, so he could have, done it, but no, apparently we have to have we have to have these completely different voice actors and this different style of animation, and frickin' Amanda Bynes is one of the spiders. Just I wanted to die.
What was that, before she fell off the wagon and became a train wreck?
This was 2003, so this was before she kind of stopped acting for a while because of everything she was going through in terms of stress and anxiety. But I really need to talk about this. So I think you even mentioned this in the tweet I posted about this movie, that the three daughters look like the Powerpuff Girls.
They do. Not even kind of. I mean, it's really awkward where you look at them and you're like, there's no way. It didn't just happen accident. There's no way. It happened accidentally.
And they probably just thought, cute girl characters? Powerpuff Girls, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they even kind of almost act like the Powerpuff Girls in a little sense. Amanda's character of Nellie is she's the leader, so she's Blossom. Oh, and we have Andy McAfee as Joy, and she's Buttercup. And then we have Maria Bamford as Urania, and she's Bubbles. And, oh my god, it's just... This movie really just irritated me to no end, because as I mentioned before, the original animated movie means a lot to me. It means it's very close to my heart, and so when I saw this, it just got me really pissed off. The first song that Wilbur sings to the lamb cardigan about how great it is to be a pig, it's Wilbur would never do anything like this. He wouldn't say oh, you just roll around in mud and then slurp your food and stuff like that. It's
I want to juxtapose that, where it's just it's great being a pig. I don't want to die. It's pretty good being a pig. Oh, God, they're going to kill me.
Well, I want to juxtapose it to the last word that's supposed to describe Wilbur. Humble.
Exactly.
It's like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I, too, am extremely humble. Well, by saying you're humble, that means you're not humble.
Okay, so... we have this plot where we have a fox who's after baby chickens, which gives me barnyard vibes for some reason.
I gotta say, actually, going back to the 70s one about this, how nice is it? Because you don't see this anymore in kids' movies most of the time. How nice is it? No antagonist.
Yeah, I know, right?
I miss that. Film, it's the 70s film's what's the main antagonist for this film? Life.
Yeah.
Life is a jerk. Life will kick you in the teeth. But sometimes life can be wonderful, and it can be great.
Yeah, we had an entire song dedicated to that. But no, we have to have a fox who eats a bunch of chicks because he's a fox.
And then Rob Paulson comes in, and he's like, I need a paycheck? I'll play the fox.
God. So yeah, basically the focus, instead of Wilbur for the first act, is Cardigan, who feels like completely left out, and he's being mocked because he's a black lamb. And you know what, I was going back to the 70s version again. It's like, hey, wasn't there a song that the farm animals sung about, like, we got lots of common things where it really counts, what we look like doesn't count an ounce? What happened?
But Patricia, that's also the movie where, like, the ram dad is also a bit of a racist. Like, off the cuff. Like, can I go play with Wilbur? We don't associate with pigs. Why? Oh. We're known for our wool. What do pigs do? I know that they can hide a dead body pretty well. Just food for thought, man.
I hate that you use that pun. Okay, so it focuses a little bit on that, and then we have this subplot that doesn't really go anywhere, where Fern enters a tomato competition, and then he's brought back over to the fair, which I assume a year had passed or something.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a year. It's supposed to be a year after Charlotte's death.
Yeah,
I mean, it feels like 30 years after Charlotte's death, but yeah, it's only been a year.
Yeah, so it's been a year. So then we have Wilbur, like, really concerned that he's not becoming relevant anymore, and that maybe Homer Zuckerman will change his mind into thinking, hey, I'm going to eat him eventually. And that subplot pretty much just goes nowhere. After that one song about, like, Wilbur being concerned about being eaten, it's, like, thrown out the window. It's like, I understand, this is actually not an issue for, like, Wilbur. He was afraid of dying. He wasn't afraid of being eaten. It was Babe who was afraid of being eaten. That whole thing about, like, him being killed, that never really occurred to Babe. He was concerned about being
Patricia,
eaten.
a talking pig's a talking pig. I don't know what you're mincing the meat here. A talking pig's a talking pig. It's the same thing.
Oh, God, no.
Babe, Wilbur, they're basically the same.
Yeah. One's in Maine, one's in England. The book of Charlotte's Web came out in the 50s. The book of Babe came out in the 80s. But it's the same crap.
Like, if they really wanted to win me over with the sequel and this being in Maine, there should have been a part where, like, Homer Zuckerman shows up and he goes, "Did you hear what happened in the town over? I heard kids are going missing." It's like a clown on the run, just snatching and eating children up and crossing it over with it. So Tim Curry could show up as an animated Pennywise.
That would have been... I actually would have preferred to see that movie over this.
Like, if someone told you, by the way, Charlotte's Web 2, terrible idea. Especially because the title alone doesn't work. It's Charlotte's Web 2. How does that work? Huh? Well, Charlotte's dead. Is she? She's not going to show up as a Force ghost, is she?
Ghost Spider.
Which, by the way, totally shocked. There should have been a Ghost Spider.
Yeah, there should have been, like, a moment where, after, Joy, Arania, and Nellie are trying to convince the farm the farmers that it was the fox that stole the chickens. There could have been, like, a moment where Charlotte came by as a ghost saying, like, use the proper force so you could be able to make the letters, and to saying it's the fox who did it. You can do it.
The clouds polymorph into Charlotte's face, and she looks at her 3 kids, and it's like the Mufasa scene. Oh, if we're gonna rip off stuff, we might as well rip off the iconic stuff.
Yeah.
See, the thing that gets me is, like, E.B. White's, like 1970 film. I hated this. Well, man, you should be grateful that you died, because in 2003, that's what it could have been.
Yeah. Whew, man. Okay. Yeah, so I don't think I have anything other to say about this film other than it's just terrible.
Anything optimistic at all?
I mean, I don't know. Just... I've seen worse.
I mean, Charlie Adler's cool, and he got a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Like, Charlie Adler got work and Rob Paulson got work. Then, unfortunately, like, Debbie Derryberry got work. So, I mean, I don't care for her voice in most things.
Well, what can you do?
I mean, as long as they're happy, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. All right. I think that we've gone... I think we've gone long enough on Charlotte's Web. Let's move over to Stuart Little. So I actually did look up some information regarding about Stuart Little, and the book is actually much more weirder than I thought. Like, I think that the one thing I'm appreciative that they changed from the book to the movie is that Stuart was actually born as a mouse from Mrs. Little, as opposed to being adopted. And it's like,
I don't care for that at all. And as far as I'm concerned, that means she's a whore. Because it's very clear her husband's a man.
well, I mean, it's said in the book that he looked like a mouse, not that he was a mouse.
Oh, God.
So it was a deformity.
So this could go literally one of two ways. Either Mama Little is either a whore, or she's into bestiality. Because like he's a mouse. Two consensual adults don't mate, and you get mouse. That doesn't happen. That's like okay. You know how like the miracle of Christ is, the Immaculate Conception? This is like the opposite of that. This is like the devil came up and he was like, curse
Mouse.
Like I half expect it's like, what happened to Mrs. Little? She bumped into an old gypsy woman while getting on the subway, knocking over her like groceries, and the gypsy woman's like, I curse you, goodbye, and then she disappeared into like the subway.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she gives birth to like a creature that is like 2 inches high and that looks like a mouse, and then we're assuming that this is normal. I'm really glad that they changed this in the movie where he was adopted, because
I would be more confused as like the attending physician.
Like, oh man, how would that scene have played out if that would have been the case?
How would she know she's pregnant?
I don't know.
He's like 3 inches. It's just like, push. Really? All this for this?
Oh my god.
Give me the morphine! You did this to me! I'll kill you! What's happening right now? What is my life?
Yeah. Okay, but as far as I'm aware, the movie of Stuart Little, there are a lot of things that were into the book, such as, Stuart with Snowball and, him eventually trying to, play with the local kids and stuff like that. But there were a lot of things in the book that would eventually go over to Stuart Little 2, where he meets up with Margalo the bird. And, I don't know if, in terms of, like, what made them decide to, like, completely, like, scrape, like, half of the story of Stuart Little and then just write something completely different when they decided to adapt the movie. And then in the sequel, they were like, let's do the other half where Stuart meets up with Margalo and then they have, like, this really sweet relationship or something. So, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. And so, with Stuart Little, I do recall that a lot of people were really into it. Like, it was like one of those like childhood movies, apparently. I was a little bit too old for when this film came out. I must have been like around 13. But I actually was one of those people who watched Mouse Hunt as opposed to Stuart Little in theaters.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I really love that movie as well. I don't hear a lot of people talking about, Mouse Hunt. That and Paulie. So, Stuart Little, I was a little bit too old for when that movie came out, but, I did see it, like, a few years later, like, on TV or something, and I thought it was pretty cute. I thought it was, like, okay. It's nowhere near as, like, insane as, like, the concept of the book was. So, yeah, it does play off as, like, pretty, stereotypical family affair, which is, it's fine. It's decent enough. I don't have anything, like, really negative to say about it personally.
Sit back.
We got stuff to say.
Okay, please, go ahead.
So, I don't know if people know this. M. Night Shyamalan was one of the co-writers for this play.
You gotta be kidding me.
You not. It was Greg Brooker and M. Night Shyamalan.
Holy crap.
Incidentally, same year as Sense.
Wow.
And if you watch that movie, and Taylor and I caught, like, when we were watching it, at the opening, it says, like, screenplay, M. Night Shyamalan and Greg Brooker. We were like, that can't be right. It can't be that guy.
There's clear evidence of him throughout the third act of the movie.
The first two acts are fine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's very much like Paddington. It's just, it's a gentle, soft, fun, like, there's no real adversity outside of dealing with, like, bullies or, the difficulties of being adopted. And it's nice and wholesome.
Yeah.
Then I guess M. Night must have stumbled in a drunk stupor. And he's like, hey, because he's celebrating how great he is. And like, hey guys, just wrote this amazing movie where there's a ghost, and he's played by Die Hard. And it's, I'm the master of twits. I'm sorry, the master of what? The master of twists. I don't think you said twist that first time. I think you said master of twits. Nah, I'm pretty sure I said twist. I got a great twist to Stuart Little. I don't think Stuart Little needs a twist. It's this really wholesome story about, being adopted and what
parents are dead.
Oh, man, M. Night, you're going off the reservation. Am I? Hear me out.
We have mafia. It's going to come in with some other mice. They're going to kidnap him and take him away so they can murder him later.
Cat mafia, played by Fat Tony from The Simpsons. What are you doing? I'm not finished. Don't interrupt me. I'm a genius. All right. And we're going to go into gratuitous detail about how Stuart's family died. I read the draft. It says that his parents arrive at the little house and they take him back. That's the thing. The cat mafia. Why are you looking at me like that? Doesn't matter. The cat mafia sent those mice as a trick to get Stuart out of the house because Snowball don't like him very much. It's like cat prejudice. Please don't call it that. So anyways, this pussycat prejudice is like a major thematic in the third act for some reason. So these mice take Stuart away. And then the adoption woman's going to show up. And they're going to be talking about the parents. And I'm going to go into gratuitous detail about how they were crushed to death by soup cans.
They're going to be like, oh my God, why would you make something like that, Mr. Shyamalan?
They were smushed so bad, all right, that they can only identify them by their dental records. Now, what are you doing right now?
Don't worry, I'm making a joke. It'll be fine.
But the kids are going to find it hilarious. I don't think any kid sat there in the middle of Stuart Little. Crushed to death? What?
This was not in the book, by the way.
No. And, you could tell those first two acts. You're like, man, Greg Booker really came in here, and it's like, man, he's really doing something solid. And then out of nowhere, someone kicked the door open. Wubba lubba dub dub. I'm M. Night Shyamalan. I'm gonna really touch the script up. Don't ruin this wholesome film, M. Night. I'll ruin anything I want. In a few years from now, I'm going to take a beloved classic and I'm going to Stuart Little that up too. Oh, I guess he might have predicted his Avatar: The Last Airbender shot.
Oh God.
So probably what actually happened was M. Night probably walked in and be like, hey, wait a minute, what's this wholesome ending to the movie here? It's like, oh well, that's the ending to the book, Nah, I want my ending to the movie. Put in Stuart Little too.
Maybe White's going to sit there and complain about Charlotte's Web. Hey, man. Throw that Stuart Little movie. I wonder if he ever, I wonder if he did see the Stuart Little film. It's like, what? She didn't give birth to a mouse. What is this atrocity?
Yeah, he probably would have been complaining about Margot not being in the film and about how it overly simplifies the plot and how it's so sickeningly sweet, because the original ending of Stuart Little is actually pretty sad. For example, Margot was actually being taken away, and he tries to rescue her, and then his car breaks down and he never sees her again. So this would have been Roald Dahl's case, in which they changed they kept everything from the witches except for the ending, in which, the kid stays as a mouse forever and he doesn't live a long life. And, he keeps, fighting off witches with his grandmother, who's also at the brink of death as well.
I'm thinking E.B. White was made pest. Life sucks, now we die. Are there talking animals? Well, sure, why not? I mean, you have a little fun. I mean, let's come on, let's lighten up for God's sake. E.B., what are you trying to say? Life could be pretty cool sometimes. Oh, but life is garbage, and it'll chew you up and spit you up, and just ends everything.
For the last adventures, yay!
Look, he's got a car. He's got a car. Wonderful. E.B., I think he might be bipolar.
I don't know, but yeah, you're absolutely right that the wholesomeness does appear in like the 2/3 of the movie with, Stuart trying to be accepted among his family as like the adopted one, and helping George win the sailboat competition and such. And yeah, it does completely like take a 180 with like that total whiplash with like, oh, his adopted his family's coming over and taking him home, but no, it's cat mafia, but no, his real family died, and now we need to find Stuart because now we appreciate him. Yeah, that's
wow. You can tell that's the M. Night part where it's like they have to learn to appreciate him. They did appreciate him. They were getting along. The moment they take that big family photo and Stuart goes, "This is the happiest day of my life." Oh, the movie could just end right there. Mm-hmm. Oh no! What's that? What's at the? Oh no! What's knocking at the door? Hi, we're the third act interruption.
And the third act even goes like worse than that because it could have ended also well when Stuart came back home the first time, but then they had to go on for another 20 minutes. So Snowball can walk up. Oh well, it seems like the Littles hated you, Stuart. I don't know. Look at that picture over there. They cut your foot out. Well, I don't know. So it's to walk away, then to say the two again, and they come back home.
Well, was it Taylor when we were watching it? You were just like Stuart's family, and you're sitting there like, where's the character arc? I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, it finished in the second act.
You could tell. You could tell. What the weird part is that like Greg Brooker really didn't go on to do that many things after this.
Mm-hmm.
But like M. Night, people were like, man, he's the next Spielberg.
Yeah, they actually did say that at one point.
He's gonna be the next Spielberg. Oh God, current Spielberg isn't even as good as like Spielberg.
Oh jeez.
Just at the end of the day, Stuart Little is a nice movie for the 2/3. Like even the third act isn't horrible by any stretch of it. Like this isn't M. Night's worst writing. It's just a total like 180 in everything.
No, his worst writing is like literally everything else in his career. This is like the telltale signs when you have like a young child and you're like, so the other day I saw like this little kid like break the neck of like a baby bird. No, your son might be a sociopath or a budding serial killer. You might want to get that checked out ahead of time before it turns into something worse.
Yeah.
That's M. Night in a nutshell is like, man, all the signs were there. They're back in horrible plot twist, really contrived. Everything piles on in the third act, making it a just big mess. Maybe someone should talk to young M before he becomes a film director. You want to give him? Oh, he's gone. He's gone. Oh, he's on his own now. Well, I'm sure everything will turn out okay in the end.
Yeah.
Last Airbender. Never recover.
We do not talk about that movie. We do not talk about The Last Airbender.
That's our Voldemort.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do not talk about it.
If you say it, the movie will manifest into your DVD collection, and then you're like, oh no! It's like a Death Eater. It just shows up.
All right. So, yeah, I don't really have much to say about, like, the second movie because, as far as I know, it's essentially, like, the plots from the book are being integrated into this one, and it's a bit of a more faithful adaptation with the exception of that ending where, Stuart never sees Margalo again, but instead she flies south for the winter. So... It's like, oh, but she didn't go away because she was, like, taken. She went south for the winter. Everything is A-okay.
Man, he really liked that idea of friends separate. Because he was working that Charlotte Web too.
Oh, God.
Maybe he just had a best friend leave him as a kid.
Just maybe bitter and resentful.
Yeah, very resentful for sure. All right. So, yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say about any of the sequels or the animated series?
I'm genuinely blown away watching this. Taylor sat there and I said, that's House.
Yeah, that was just weird seeing.
That was genuinely weird seeing Hugh Laurie there. It's like, oh, well, good for him. He's very diverse apparently as a performer because he played a loving father figure really well.
Yeah, as opposed to being
cute.
like a jerk doctor.
Well, like, do you know the funny thing is, I don't remember him as House as much as he's the henchman to Cruella de Vil in the live-action remake of 101 Dalmatians.
Yes, he was. Next to the guy who played as Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter.
Right? And you just sit there and you're like, that's weird, right? Like, it's not too weird that it's Glenn Close because she's owning it. But, like, you just look at it and you're like, that's House.
Yeah, that's House. And that's Arthur Weasley. And they're working for Glenn Close.
10 out of 10.
All right.
I have no opinion about the sequels. I know they exist.
Yeah,
and
me too.
I know that Hades is in the second one and he plays a bird.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know the third one is just like Stuart Little at summer camp, and it's just like it really feels like a TV movie sort of thing.
I would be
Just like-
surprised if it was the pilot for the animated series.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. It definitely felt like it. You just like give Stuart another animal sidekick, and there you go. You're off to the races.
Is the cartoon show the one where he made BFFs with like a skunk?
I don't even know.
The third one was the one where he made BFS with a skunk. I'm not sure about the animated series, though. I never saw that personally.
Me neither.
Mostly because the third one sort of turned me off on it.
Apparently the animated series only lasted like 2 or 3 months.
Oh.
Oh, wow. A success for the
2 or 3
ages.
seasons.
No, it was like 3 months. Hugh Laurie came back as the dad, awkwardly enough. And then everybody else was recast.
Oh, my God. I mean,
Oh.
that's just amazing. You know, it's like out of everybody to come back, bring back Hugh Laurie. It's like not Michael J. Fox, not Nathan Lane. We need Hugh Laurie.
The hilarious thing about this is they got David Kaufman to come back as Stuart, and David Kaufman actually was the double for Marty McFly.
Yeah, and he would also voice as Danny Phantom as well. But nowadays, when you think of like doubles for like Michael J. Fox, you think of Jason Arnold Taylor.
Yeah, the guy who plays like you swear to God he's just Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so good. They even got Quentin Flynn to come and play Snowbell because Quentin Flynn was the double for Nathan Lane in Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah, exactly. So you have Quentin Flynn, coming for Timon and Pumbaa. You have James Arnold Taylor coming back for, if James Arnold Taylor would be like the double for like Marty McFly and like future installments, and other voice actors like would put in for the animated series, which apparently, I guess it didn't really. I guess by the third movie, it's like people were just getting sick and tired of like Stuart Little at that point. And I even heard rumors. I think. I don't even know if this is true, but I think I heard a rumor that they're possibly making another Stuart Little movie.
I read that they were going to do another cartoon show.
Yeah, I don't know what the rumors are saying, but I heard something involving with Stuart Little coming back.
Is that a well worth tapping? I think that's my big question is like, is that a well that has enough validation to go back to where it's like, how much rich material can you really pull out of that?
Not a lot, to be quite honest. I think that the movies that we have were just enough. We don't need any more to kind of like say, hey, we need to exist so we can be able to generate towards the new generation. I don't know.
Yes.
All right, let's go over to our final one. And this is the one that kind of like was not only the least successful out of the books of E.B. White in terms of like when compared to Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little, but also in terms of films as well. So we have The Trumpet of the Swan. This is another animated film very similar to Charlotte's Web. Instead of being done by Hanna-Barbera, it's done by Crest Animation, whom you might know as for Swan Princess and Alpha and Omega, yes.
Oh, we know them.
I love that response of like, we had Hanna-Barbera, which they might have shaved some corners, but you know what? After this, we had Crest Animation. Man, suddenly Hanna-Barbera is looking like the freaking the gold medalist in this competition.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. I always kind of see Richard Rich as like the anti-Don Bluth, in which no. Let me just explain this. You see, both Richard Rich and Don Bluth worked at Disney at one point, and then after they left, Richard Rich kind of like wanted to capture in the Disney style with all of his projects when he was first starting to doing Christian movies and his own series of VHS tapes to kind of like bring a wholesomeness to it. Well, Don Bluth tried to stray far away from Disney as possible, at least in his early run, where he was trying to do things that were kind of like inspired by the emotions of Disney, like with Fantasia and Bambi and stuff like that when he was doing Secret of Nim and Land Before Time. But then but it was still different. It was still like, something akin to like taking risks. And Richard Rich didn't exactly pull that off as well as he possibly would have hoped, instead of, being compared to Disney constantly, especially with the likes of the Swan Princess and the amount of sequels that Alpha and Omega got. I do actually have a story with my history of Crest Animation, but I'm not going to get into that until I talk about Swan Princess, which I'm planning on doing for Thanksgiving. So,
very nice.
Okay, but yes, for this one,
Swan.
Yes, Trumpet of the Swan. I have never seen Trumpet of the Swan before this podcast. I hadn't even heard of this movie until I saw, our colleague, the Cartoon Hero, review it a few years ago. And so then I was like, oh, so apparently it was a movie that a lot of people called either really bad or really mediocre. And so I decided to see it for myself. And yeah, it's pretty mediocre. So we essentially have this swan who can't talk, and he's a trumpeter swan. He, apparently trumpeter swans are very well known for their calls, and that's how they get mates, and that's how they warn about danger and stuff like that. So we have Louie, and you know what? I just really like the reference about his sisters are named Billy and Etta, as in like Billie Holiday and Etta James, and he's Louie after Louis Armstrong, and he plays a freaking trumpet. So apparently, E.B. White was a huge jazz fan. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Then he'll make a book about how like jazz is pain and suffering from the human soul, and it's like, E.B., for God's sakes, take some Percocet or something. My God, here's some Prozac.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently like it plays kind of similar to like the Ugly Duckling, in which like he's being ostracized by all the other swans because he can't sing, and so he is kind of like an outsider, but he does make friends with a boy who's there during summer camp, and he decides that he wants to find a way to communicate with his family, so he learns how to read and write, which I can kind of understand the concept on paper, but when you're dealing with swans, showing them human English, they would not even understand it no matter how hard you tried.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Louis suffered from the reverse of the disease that Fern had, like how Fern could talk to animals. Maybe Louis suffered from a disease where he could talk to the hairless apes that like roam around on their death machines on wheels and such.
Or maybe he was inflicted by the worst disease of all, the Mary Sue syndrome.
Louis really doesn't suffer from, and it's ironic because he's technically a main character with a disability.
Yeah. I don't think that this movie pulls off the touching tale about overcoming your disabilities as well as Finding Dory does. At least with Finding Dory, you actually do feel the emotions of Dory trying to find her parents and her going through her, her short-term memory loss. And the fact that her parents were so supportive and loving, and then she disappeared, but her parents never gave up in trying to look for her. And, that moment, I just want to cry every time I see it. But that was just a beautiful tale about how to appreciate and how to cope with a person who's going through, like, a certain disability. And I can get that maybe they were trying to do that here with the Trumpet of the Swan, but it just doesn't pull it off as well.
Or at all.
Sure.
No, it doesn't pull it off at all. Because really, they basically set up the parents to be like, the mom doesn't really have a say in anything, and the dad's just a joke.
Can we just talk about how the plot is like a weird connect the dots, like light bright nightmare of things that happen where it's like, okay, introduce the parents. All right, dad's an egotistical jackass. Moving on. 3 eggs hatch. Son is born mute. Dad's already thoroughly disappointed in the existence of this abomination. Like, right out of the gate. Just like, my son can't trumpet. He's pretty much useless. And it's like, wow, we're already going in there. And like, game about how much he hates life.
Yeah, it's making me think of parallels to like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it's like Rudolph's dad was just like, "Oh, what a mistake you are!" Just slaps him and such.
At least, but like Rudolph's disability doesn't hinder him. Like, Rudolph's disability gave him a superpower. It's like being an X-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, Nightcrawler, your horrible disability of being hot, blue, and the ability to teleport.
Oh, boo-hoo on you.
Oh, it's so hard. Like Louis' at least disability was like Louis' disability at least negatively impacted the family, where it's like hunters or predators put his siblings at risk because he can't honk to warn them, and it's like, oh, that's important. That sounds like a good message. Nothing.
Yeah, and the main focus is like they were afraid of Louis being alone because he can't honk and he can't get a mate, which is where we have Serena into the mix.
My son can't get laid. What is this world coming to? Dad, I think you're about the wrong. If my son's a filthy mute, he ain't getting any. Oh, woe is the world.
Even though you show he's the exact time where he's actually acting with the girl Swan. It's kind of missing the whole point of that.
It's like when the girl Swan's dad shows up. Come here, I want you to associate with Boyd. I mean, if you mate with him, who knows? We might get, like, the left quadrant of the pond. There's this really weird subplot where her dad, like, Serena's dad, comes out of left field and is, like, really, really adamant that she shacks up with this other boy Swan for no reason. Like, at least, it's almost like they're trying to do the whole like ancient times thing where it's like, you know, if you marry the person from this house instead of the humble baker, our family could get something by you marrying with this house. But like nothing's ever addressed in any capacity.
I mean, the only thing that is addressed is that he has a good voice and that he can sing very well, and that's pretty much it.
Except he can't because it's Seth Green. I love Seth Green as a performer. Dude's a great actor. He really knows how to act. But it's really funny where it's like, this Swan can sing. Man, if I heard a Swan that sounded like that. You hear a Swan that sounds like that, that's where you just pick up a big old stick or like a heavy rock and it's like, I have to treat you like the Fly. I have to put you out of your misery.
And this makes me think like this has all sorts of comparisons to Alpha and Omega, really. Because one of the main conflicts of that movie is basically Kate, like trying to like shack up with Garth to try to bring the tribes together and all that. But
that has a plot, though. That has a plot of like these two rival tribes will combine.
Yeah, that makes me just feel like, oh my god, Alpha and Omega is better than this.
We have reached the low point.
I mean, hell, technically speaking, Lion King 2 did a better job because like Simba's daughter shacks up with Kovu, and that's where the whole thing where it's like, it's us or them. Us or them, they are us. What's wrong with you guys? And it's like, this is a good point about like the new generation acknowledging that the prejudice of the old generation is unacceptable in a progressive world.
Yeah.
And it's weird because that's Lion King 2, and Lion King 2 shouldn't be that good.
Especially when you have the Upende song in Upende. Oh.
And I like Lion King 2.
I do too as well. I actually do think it's like one of the better direct-to-video sequels in Disney.
I think it's vastly superior to the first one.
Really?
I flat out just hate the original Lion King with a passion.
Interesting.
I just think it just sucks. It's like watching Bambi or Dumbo. It's like, Christ, this is boring.
That's completely fair. I haven't seen 1.5, so I can't really say about that. But
do you know what Rosencrantz and Guildenstern is?
No.
Okay, well, it's that. Like keeping in leagues with the whole ripping off Will Shakespeare. So the first one is Macbeth. The second one is Romeo and Juliet. 1.5 is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. It's the first movie told from the perspective of Timon and Pumbaa.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I can see where you're coming from. All right then. That's actually really interesting. I mean, a lot of people were actually pretty upset that I didn't talk about 1.5 in my Disney Toon Studios podcast, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't watch everything, but maybe I do need to eventually, so I can actually find out, how good it is. But anyway,
it'd be easy to watch Disney sequels if they didn't just spit them out on a conveyor belt.
Right, exactly.
But Trumpet of the Swan, there's nothing. There's no stakes. Which is weird, because they keep introducing stakes.
Yeah, I know. So we have this one stake where apparently when, Lewis's father tries to make him talk and he decides to get a trumpet from a nearby town, he, freaking crashes into the window and he grabs, they throw the trumpet at him and he just flies away and then he's, called a thief and they have, wanted posters all over.
I love the to that scene where it's like a common thief, me. I did it for my son. And it's like you're a swan. No one can understand you. As far as they're concerned, they just see a swan honking aggressively as it steals a trumpet. What is happening? And then it's like Louis got a trumpet, and then Louis' dad's like, I couldn't pay for it. And Louis' like, I should get a job. What is this?
That's just like, I lost my honor.
Brought to you from the mind of the individual who's like, and then she gave birth to a creepy mouse boy.
Yes. Okay, now I guess that does in that aspect. So yeah, we do have that one scene in which when Louis decides to fly over to Boston so that he can be able to get a job, and he becomes really popular playing through his trumpet, and he's well known around in radios and televisions, and everybody knows who he is. And there was this one song. Oh, by the way, there's songs in this, and it's you know what, I give credit for Charlotte's Web, even though that I understand that some of the songs could have been cut off from the movie and nothing would have happened, but at least I do remember some songs from the movie. I remember no songs from this movie.
I remember they sucked.
Yeah, these are just songs where just oh, you want a song? Just copy and paste it right in there.
Hey, you want a song? No. Well, sit right back and let me give you a jingle. I really don't want this. You're gonna want it.
Yeah. Basically, you have one song about these eggs are born, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree or something. I don't know, but
I gotta, Patricia, I gotta ask. Call me crazy, okay?
Okay.
Crazy.
Thank you. That squirrel totally looked like Stalin.
Oh my God.
And he has little squirrel fingers.
Well, I mean, the freaking swans had bird fingers. That didn't bother me that much. That's part for the fucking Charlotte had hands. I mean, they weren't creepily pronounced, but she even had little vague. She moved her arms articulate enough that's she's basically got hands. No, the squirrel shows up, and every time I saw it, it's beard and goatee, and I'm like, that squirrel bears a remarkable resemblance to Joseph Stalin.
Oh God. And you know what? And his personality, with him introducing himself as some sort of politician of squirrels to Louis, he sounds like Mayor Quimby from The Simpsons. I welcome you over to Boston.
When we meet that other squirrel, Taylor was sitting there. It's which president is that an impression of? And we're maybe Reagan.
Oh my God, no!
It's. This is one of the movies where it's what's actually happening is so boring. You start to catch things that any other film would probably slip away from you, but because nothing is interesting, your mind goes to places where it's just squirrel looks like Stalin, squirrel sounds like Reagan, the animation is atrocious. Things just move a lot.
Yeah, they can just never stand still. They have to just always keep constantly moving, even when standing. Carol Burnett plays the teacher, and it's is Carol Burnett's career predicated on the idea of just quirky and weird people? Is that her role of choice?
I guess so. It's hey, we have Carol Burnett. She's funny. Let's see if we can have her into this.
Because when the teacher shows up, it's just move, move, move. It's Jesus Christ. It's everybody's got Parkinson's. Nobody stays still. Every scene, it's the animators are if they move a lot, that means it's a very animated movie. Well, no. See, the rule of Disney is, yeah, they move around a lot, but it's also really good animation. So I mean,
and the movement is actually flowing, not just let me just move over here and there. Whoa.
I just do this and that and this, and it's what are you even doing?
At the Trumpet of the Swan's core, it's it's got a great idea for having a disabled character being a main character and such, but it utterly has no basis to base any of it on. The whole family aspect is just is just like toothless and such, and everything with the humans, it's just a Mary Sue syndrome, where he just goes to a place, oh, I accomplished it. I go to another place, I accomplish it. Just like with no actual stakes or no actual difficulty.
The chain of events are swans give birth, son's a mute, what a waste, steal trumpet, can't pay for trumpet, goes to camp, makes friends with human, goes to town, goes to school, learns how to write and read, goes back to pond. None of us speak human. Damn it! Goes to park, becomes a celebrity musician.
Stops a wedding.
Gets the money, pays back the shop owner. Shop owner brandishes gun on public street and doesn't instantly go to jail.
And then there's like this one point, it's like where you think that the father is dead. It's like you're really introducing this almost like 10 minutes before the movie is over. You want us to feel any emotions to this whatsoever.
And then it's just like, I'm going to give this money to protect the swans. And then the kid who is like really, really erratic is like, I'm going to do that too. Nobody cares. And then they fly away. Yeah, and he shoots up with the girl.
Other kids.
Oh, thanks. I'd love to know, like, wow, this was one of E.B. White's like least popular book. I can't imagine why, but if it's anything like this movie, I can't imagine why. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a
flippin' nightmare.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. Like, this movie is so boring, but at the same time, there's just a lot of, like, weird stuff that is into this that you're like, what is going on? Like, what?
Oh my god! This was in the book. The part where Louis talks to Sam, and he tells him to split his web beat with a razor blade to make fingers so that he can play the notes on the trumpet.
No one.
E.B., what was wrong with you, sir?
Well, he was trying to be realistic, Nero.
Swans don't play trumpets!
I don't know.
But they
you know what?
They had fingers.
Why wasn't that in the movie? Where was the part where Sam, like, whips out a straight edge and slits open a goose's, like, feet so he can play a trumpet? This movie is a lie!
Well, he already had feather fingers.
All right, I think that I'm done here. My brain just melted. So yeah, that was the interesting journey into the adaptations based off of E.B. White's books, and oh my god, we just had to save the...
Here's a question. If you had to reboot them, what studios would you give these individual projects to?
Oh man, that's so good. I don't know.
I kind of want Charlotte's Web under maybe Laika.
Yes, that would be so good. Yes, I agree. Laika would do great wonders for Charlotte's Web. Stuart Little.
Trumpet the Swan would do well with like DreamWorks, I think.
Yeah, I could definitely see, Stuart Little with DreamWorks, I suppose. I mean,
Trumpet of the Swan, I'd put it in the garbage.
Rio Brinquedo.
Hey, I was trying to be, optimistic with them. Maybe somebody could make this weirdness work.
Then the razor blade to split the feet open. Play the trumpet. We're not putting that in there. I don't know what the hell E.B. was smoking. Man, this opium is great. The Orient knew what they were doing. Starts counting it by handfuls. It's like, E.B., what are you doing?
I mean, this is the same guy who wrote down that Stuart Little was actually given birth by Mrs. Little, and he looked like a mouse, so... Yeah, trumpeting swans and razor blades.
Actually, there's a question. If he was born, was he actually a mouse, or was he like just some kid with a disability? Like he was born like
yes, that is exactly it. He was a kid with a deformity. It said in the book he looked like a mouse. He was not a mouse. He just looked like one. So it's a deformity.
That's like, it's like he saw that movie, was it Freak Show, where like all the freaks are on display and treated like very poorly because they happen to look different. It'd be like if he saw that, he's like, man, I want to make a book about that, where like the mouse boy has a family. I give like Charlotte's Web. I would bet dollars to put it, so they would probably do a damn good job.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would love it if Laika would do Charlotte's Web. I mean, just I would imagine like the beautiness of stop motion with that scene where Charlotte is making the web for Wilbur saying some pig, very similar to like how it was in the animated the 70s animated film. Oh, I can just imagine it right now. It would be so beautiful.
Also, like, seriously, like, I love it's arguably one of my favorite studios currently on the market. They need to stop making original properties though, because they keep bombing at the damn box office.
Yeah, because nobody knows about them at all.
Because it's not things people know. I think they should try doing some iconic stuff just to build the clout, and then go in to do your original stuff, and that'll work better for you in terms of a business like aspect.
I mean, Pixar, they pretty much did every single film based off of an original idea. So maybe they thought that maybe it would be a similar thing, but there was a huge difference with working with stop motion with a small group as opposed to working with a big studio with CGI.
Yeah, there's a huge difference in terms of and the amount of energy exerted. And like it puts, man, if you think watching the films are good, just watching the making of the films are phenomenal. And you can just imagine how good that Charlotte's Web would be. Like, they'd have to make like big puppets of like Charlotte for the close-up shots.
Yeah, and the intricacy of the web when it glistens into the dew in the morning when it's revealed to say some pig or terrific would be just amazing.
Like Trumpet of the Swan with DreamWorks could probably be solid. I think Stuart Little would be more in their bag because watch any DreamWorks movie, you could tell what parts it's like they wanted toys of some of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can see like maybe a big celebrity would voice Stuart, and I don't know if they'll like really stick close to the original source material. I think that, very similar to like almost every single adaptation that they've done, it like strays far from it, but they'll try to make it like filled with pop culture references, and the adventures would probably like be like the main focus. Maybe they'll actually include Margalo into it, and maybe they'll have like some sort of huge adventure, and then they'll have like Snowball trying to be like the main antagonist, voiced by some famous celebrity or something. Seth
Rogen will play Snowball.
Yes.
I'm gonna get you, Stuart. And you're like, oh. this is like 5 train wrecks.
That doesn't make me picture that voice attached to like that ending credit scene in Stuart Little, where it's like the ball falls down, just Snowball goes out the window.
The slapstick again in that movie too is really weird. Where it's like that cat suffers a lot of hilarious physical abuse. It's like Tom and Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that also doesn't go well with the third act twist.
Give Trumpet of the Swan to Disney.
Oh yeah, they do like their musicals.
Yeah, it will probably be a lot better with musicals as opposed to Crest Animation.
And then they could give themselves a big pat on the back like they always do, because Disney really loves to like congratulatory brag about like when Moana came out, they bragged about like, oh, we got like a Maui person to play Moana. When Princess of the Frog came out, we got like an all-black cast. I mean, they didn't, obviously, because at least freaking John Goodman was in that movie. He's not black. but they sure bragged about it. They bragged about our first black princess. Who cares? She's just another princess. Yeah, but she's black. You should be proud of us. Yes, thank you for catching up in the year 2009.
I remember an article from a long time ago, I think it was like during the time in which they were making Atlantis: The Lost Empire, where they were mentioning about like, the doctor in that movie who was black, and it was like, oh wow, Disney's finally incorporating like the first like major African American character in an animated Disney film. And then there were like, there was like so much like praise and attention to it, and making it like a big deal. It's like, oh wow, way to go, Disney. 2001 and we already finally have a black character. Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, like the last horse crossed the finish line, huh, Patricia?
Yeah.
Dude, they do that like every time they do something. They did that with Lilo and Stitch. Like, we got Hawaiian people. Okay. You're in animation, right? Technically speaking, you can hire anybody to play these characters. That's the beauty of animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Samurai Jack. I don't know if many people know this or not. Samurai Jack played by, an African-American performer.
Yeah.
He's not played by a Japanese guy.
Mm-mm.
But Jack is phenomenally played.
Yeah.
Like, Phil Lamar does a phenomenal job. John DiMaggio plays the Scotsman. John DiMaggio isn't Scottish.
No.
And it's like, but Disney's just like, look at what we did. Okay, what's wrong with you? It's like they never caught up with the time.
And so they just praise themselves for it. But with Trumpet of the Swan, Oh, disabled character. Hooray.
No, I guarantee you that's what it's going to be like. Well, it's like, look at that. Our openly gay character. The henchman for the supervillain. Oh, jeez. Why are we celebrating this? Why are you celebrating it? Also, pretty sure LeFou was always gay. I think we all believe that from the animated life. I mean, none of us were under the illusion LeFou was straight.
Yeah, he loved Gaston.
He really appreciated Gaston. But that's what they do. They always... so you know when they got Trumpet Swan, look at that. Our first handicap character. It's a bird. Hey, man,
get the straight edge out.
But Pixar has a fish, so we need to get a bird so we can be able to compensate for it.
Yeah.
I think Disney hates when Pixar does things that impress people, because it's like, it's not the main studio that's on the side that we happen to own. Why do you hate what you own? It's like Cartoon Network. We hate cartoon called Cartoon Network, and we hate them for it.
Yeah, so, bottom line, these adaptations have, some goodness into them, well, except for Trumpet or the Swan, but there are some negative things about it, especially when I think there's, one thing that we've constantly brought up in all three of these movies is tonal whiplash. There'll be a moment in which it's, incredibly whimsical, but then a moment that gets, really dark really quickly.
I mean, Patricia... Here's a swan, and he plays a trumpet. Take this straight edge, cut my feet open so I can play it like that. I have fingers.
But Nero, here's a mouse. He's being adopted to this nice family. Everything's wholesome and cheerful. Oh, we find out about his parents. They got crushed by soup cans.
Oh, and then the cop will be like, "Hey, you want to see some photos from murders?" Which no cop is going to keep their job by whipping up photos of murders from crime scenes and then showing them to random people. Hey man, check this out. Oh my god, yeah, it's pretty messed up, ain't it? Oh jeez, it's funny because I've seen people where people are like, Beetlejuice has total whiplash. Beetlejuice is a weird movie. Total whiplash works to that movie's actual effect. For God's sakes, the main villain is like a lich. So, the total whiplash in Beetlejuice makes sense.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be, watching freaking any of these weird, quirky children animated films. And then, out of, left field, Stalin Squirrel. My son's not getting laid. Oh, look, my wife shit out a mouse boy. Somehow in all of this, Charlotte's Web still is the most concise one, and it still has the same problems.
Yeah, we have, I'm being taken away by the owner that I love. Oh, I can talk. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, but everybody's praising me for being some pig, terrific, humble, radiant. Yeah. This is an issue with what we've seen so far in E.B. White's adaptations. It's massive tonal shifts where everything just goes from up and down super quickly with no build-up. Oh my god. Okay. I think we should wrap this up right before I just keel over and just go insane. So, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on by to the show. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Happy to be on to talk about the swan fingers.
Yes, and the creepy boy who looked like a mouse. And the pig who is being killed off, but then is saved by a spider.
I mean, that's the writing of somebody who had to be on drugs. It's like if you ever really read Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. I understand it's a satire on a lot of things, but at some points you have to ask yourselves, how lit was this man getting? And then she goes through a looking glass, beats chess pieces.
Oh my god.
Go on. And then the flowers talk. Mr. Carroll, I think you might have been getting a little of the old, if you know what I'm saying.
Maybe. I don't know what you're talking about. I
think it'd kind of be cool to see these movies done by studios, because I'd like some of the... I mean, I'll watch anything Laika puts out.
Yeah, for
no
sure.
No matter what. I saw Missing Link. It was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Missing Link was amazing.
Yeah. Now, it's actually funny that Missing Link came out around the same... It's going to be coming out around, the same time as, these other... I mean, we already had Smallfoot, then there's Missing Link, and DreamWorks is releasing Abominable.
Yeah, it's like all these Bigfoot movies.
It's like the weird Penguin era. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. Ever since March of the Penguins, then we had like Surf's Up, and then we had Happy Feet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the actual beginning of this whole thing was. Because I think there's one with like the son of Bigfoot, which was more like a direct DVD movie, though.
But that doesn't even make sense, because it wasn't Bigfoot. It was some dude who experimented on himself and then got furry. That's not a damn Bigfoot. That's like the Hulk.
Magic.
And he's also magic. Oh, God, Patricia, we're going to have to show you that sometime. Oh, my God.
I want to see that, actually. That sounds amazing.
We need to show you that one. We saw some weird one on Canadian Light that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's another Bigfoot one as well. There's many Bigfoot movie out here.
Okay, then maybe we'll have to do a podcast on all the Bigfoot movies. Sure. Why not? I'll have to add that to my list. All right,
so Bigfoot got his due.
All right, so yeah,
Bigfoot.
Yes, Bigfoot 2 Electric Big Flu. All right, yeah, please. Why don't you plug and promote your stuff, guys?
All right, well, we're the ToonGrin boys. We work on over. You can find us on ToonGrin.com, but if you, of course, could go to YouTube, looking up ToonGrin. Our primary, I guess, patron export at this point is Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo is our big thing, and we're planning to do a podcast soon on the new Scooby-Doo show that just dropped, Scooby-Doo Guess Who?
Yeah, the one with Steve Urkel in it.
Yeah.
Steve, the one where, like, Scooby-Doo meets all these celebrities, like Weird Al, right on. Chris Paul, right on. Wonder Woman, that's not a celebrity, that's a fictional character. Batman, again, fictional character. Steve Urkel, you mean Jaleel White? No, I mean Steve Urkel is going to be in there. And the Ghost of Abe Lincoln. This is going to be amazing.
I want to see this.
Amazing.
That would be great, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I can't wait to hear about your thoughts on that. And as for me, I'm just about to wrap up all that month, and I'm going to be working on some new stuff coming up. I'm going to be working on a very special premiere of a particular series that I've been hinting on for quite a while, actually. And you'll be finding out what that is pretty soon. I'll give some, more details on that when the time comes. Let us know in the comments below about if you have any fond memories of any of the adaptations that we talked about. What is your favorite? What is your least favorite? Which studio would you like to do either of these if they ever got remade? I'm actually curious. Should they actually do the more faithful adaptation of Stuart Little where he was a creepy mouse boy being born? So that's it, everybody.
Give it to a bowl.
Yeah. Will they ever do the Trumpet of the Swan that I want, where they get the straight edge out? I want to see that.
Give it to Bay. Give it to Michael Bay.
He'll explode his webs apart. Then he'll just play an electric guitar.
When he blows a trumpet, boom, explosion.
That'd be amazing.
That's it, everybody. Hope to see you around soon, and take care.
As always, be sure to tune in to ToonGrin.
Yeah, see ya.
Say something like you love me and make my day, like you always do, like you always do. Hold my hand and look me in the eyes so I can tell you how I feel, tell you how I feel. Every day is something new. If I spend it with you, with you, with you. Oh, I want you right now, and I need you right now, you right now. My world is spinning round, round, around. Oh, I want you now, now, now. My world is spinning round, round, round. And I want you now, and I want you now, and I want you now.